Okay, so this is our first recording of our podcast, and I guess I don't know what to talk about. I know we got a lot of things that we want to talk about, but it's weird because recording your first podcast, it's kind of
Well, I don't think we're gonna include any of that.
yeah.
But anyway,
Well,
what's up, y'all? We're gonna talk about all kinds of different topics on this podcast, and hopefully, you guys enjoy out there. His name is Mango, right?
yeah. Well, that's my
What are you
artist.
gonna call
My artist pen name is Mango, and
Make
yeah,
sure to follow him on Twitter. You have a
well,
Twitter, right?
I have a Twitter, but I don't have anything on Twitter. I'm not even doing anything yet on Twitter.
You have a TikTok. I know that.
I do have I have a TikTok and an Instagram under imango.art because I do a lot of art stuff. And I guess essentially when we were thinking about doing this podcast, we wanted to be real with people in a sense of creativity and where like I kind of like how it builds and grows within individuals in a sense, and also like I guess what kind of resonates with you guys and us. So hopefully we attract the right kind of crowd. You know,
He cares a lot about getting Zoomers. So hopefully the Zoomers out there will definitely
No.
give us a shot.
I
I'm just-
I may be like I may not look like a millennial, but I am very much too old. So
It's pretty easy for them to tell we're both old, man.
yeah, we're very old.
I don't think they gotta try that hard.
Well,
One of the things that
I've been told that my kids, they look at me and they think I'm in my 20s.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I got parents that tell me I like. It's probably the Asian genes or something.
For
but
sure.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're lucky on that front. It's harder for a person like myself to hide it because I got the grays in the beard and the mustache now.
You could totally just
And up
use
top.
dye and just dye it up.
I could.
That's what my mom does.
I mean, personally, I don't think I'll ever do that because I just feel like one of the things that we do, we're gonna go off on different topics, but one of the things that we do societally is we kind of like make aging something to hide or something. It's like we shouldn't necessarily feel that way. It's just a natural, cycle, For me though, I've always kind of had like gray. Since I was like a kid, I had like a little bit of like a gray hair here
Yeah.
and just like gradually spread out.
I mean, I've always had like a high widow's peak since like middle school, high school. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the bad eating or the stress, but thank goodness I'm finally figuring stuff out when it
Yeah.
comes to like health and everything. So, but
But that's kind of part of just like learning over time when we do get older is you kind of just like figure out what matches like your face and the overall look that you want to have.
yeah,
You kind of just figure stuff out naturally.
yeah. There's a sense of like wanting to, I guess your appearance kind of is what you kind of also want to attract, right? In the same sense, externally.
Yeah. But I think, generally you just want to look good for you first and foremost. Like you want to be
Facts.
able to look at yourself in the mirror every day and be like, yeah, I look pretty good. I look pretty good today.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that's one thing with me, and because I'm on like a health binge the last couple years, and there's a fly in our studio. But it's like I spend like forever in front of like the mirror, just like like I need to look better than this. So
I know.
so I do the dumbest stuff to try to like get myself to a position where I feel happy with them. So the problem is, I don't think personally for me, I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but I can never be too satisfied with how I am physically. So I'm always trying to improve. And I don't want to hide the fact that, I don't want to lie and say you should, love the body you're in. Obviously, you need to love the body you're in, you know. And if you're happy in the body you're in, that's good job on you. That's amazing. I can say ever since I was in elementary school, I've never really loved the body I was in. Like, not saying I don't like some of the features. Like, I like who I am, but like I feel like I could always improve
Yeah.
where I'm lacking.
I think a lot of people, even like people who are conventionally attractive and people who a lot of us would be like, dang, I wish I looked like that. Even they feel that way about themselves. So
Yeah,
it's a never ending sort of struggle that we all have when it comes to like just being able to look at yourself and be like, yeah, I look pretty good. Or
yeah.
yeah, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm on the right track.
Yes,
A lot
yes.
of us kind of struggle with that.
Yeah, yeah. And I see it a lot more actually in people who are, like you said, super like fit or into
Hmm.
shape. It's not even about like looking good for the gram, which a lot of people are doing that nowadays, but it's more so like, you know, they need to have this certain muscle tone because it's bugging them that the other side isn't as fit, you know, and or it's just like a whole mental thing,
Oh yeah.
you know. And a lot of times, especially with our generation, going to the mental thing, I think this is where our tangent starts, but going to like the mental aspect of it, a lot of boys when we were younger, especially in our generation, I felt like we had to keep a lot of that stuff to ourselves,
Yeah.
you know, because we grew up with parents that strived to get where they were. We had parents that, oh, we got you here, you know,
Hmm.
we did this for you, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And now,
Immigrant parents.
yeah, and it's not about cartoons and TVs and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but it's like they gave it to us so we didn't have to work so hard. But
Hmm.
then in exchange, now our generation is, we've been like that since we're our parents' age now, and we're still kind of, we grew up with a different type of mentality. So we love the Pokemon cards, we love, you know, the video games. That new Nintendo Switch 2 coming out, I want it, but it's like I'm still playing games on Nintendo Switch, the first one, you know. And
Yeah.
but in the same sense, like we're in our 30s and we're thinking about Nintendo, where our parents would have been like doing something else, you know. And then now you're seeing it like in younger generations, kind of like what we're kind of instilling in them. 'Cause I have a sister who has kids, and you probably know people who have kids that are what are Gen Alphas.
Hmm.
You kind of see their behavior. It's not the same behavior as, you know, how
Previous
millennials, yeah,
generations. Yeah.
even how millennials were.
Yeah.
I guess they would, our parents would have considered us lazy, but now that you look at the younger generation from us, they seem even lazier than we were. You know what I mean?
Well, I
But
think it's more of a perception thing
yeah,
rather than it necessarily being like, oh, they're actually lazier. Because I think it's more so like, as technology sort of gets better and better, it's
yeah,
just the kind of things that um, they used to, or that they're used to, we weren't used to. So it's just a different kind of work ethic. It's not so much that our work ethic is that much better than theirs, but
oh yeah, yeah.
maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't really know, but I kind
But
of just have that.
speaking of the younger generation, I'm not gonna bash on them too hard.
Oh, here we
But
go.
let's go with like the brain rot logic, right?
Mm.
So we've had our share of, technically our generation of brain rot.
Mm.
If you've watched shows like Cow and Chicken growing up, or you've watched Cat Dog, or if you watch even SpongeBob, like had some dumb stuff on there, you know. But I feel like, you know, Rocko's Modern Life or Ren and Stimpy had the like our brain rot. Ed and Eddie, I feel like had a good amount of brain rot for us. It still had a sense of, it had a level of clarity when it came to language, and I think it's because at that time the internet was just starting and it wasn't fully there yet, so we didn't rely on too much.
Mm.
This generation of kids, I feel like because the internet is so vastly available to them, the people who are just like them that they're watching on the internet, like social media influencers and stuff like that, a lot of them probably never went to school,
Mm.
or they just game all day, or even the channels, like they would watch people on there who are just as young as them or whatever, doing stuff and getting popular and getting famous, and they develop new lingo or language that's completely absurd to how we kind of like mesh. Like we have our own language when we were younger,
Right.
obviously, and it threw over our parents' heads, obviously. But then when you hear stuff like skibbity toilet or Ohio, it's completely different. It's there's no clarity of where it actually is kind of coming from unless you actually dive deep into what it is. Like,
Well, I
what's your point on it?
I feel like those kind of things I think are just like generational. Like every generation was kind of like that.
No, I that's where I agree with
Yeah.
you, and the
I
most
wouldn't
part,
necessarily say that they're more brain rotted per
mm,
se.
it's so this is how do I explain this? I was for a while because I worked with kids,
Mm.
and I hear these things, and I'm like that person that's like, I totally get it. You're your own generation, and you got your own language. I get with it.
Mm.
But um, I guess what I'm saying is that a lot of stuff when they come out with brain rot words
Mm.
like skibbity, how does that translate to, let's say, like our words, like when we grow up, like, what's that, homie, or how's my boy doing, or even when you say man and your parents are like, you don't say man. Man is like, that's how my mom is like that. I'm Filipino, and if I said man growing up, like, man, she's like, why are you saying man? She'll, you know what I mean? So like you say certain words and our parents get upset with those words, but you know where the derivative is.
Right.
When you say skibbity Ohio phantom tax, where is the derivative? Phantom
Uh.
Tax is from a YouTuber. I forgot his name, Phantom, whatever. And it's basically what it basically means is that you are taking someone's food without permission, but you're technically sharing. So if you had a plate of fries and I took some fries, I would say, Phantom Tax, take your fries and eat it. Did you know that?
No, I have no
Exactly.
idea, bro.
But when I say,
But I'm old. That's why.
yeah, but there's no derivative to, you
To
know,
that, it's
yeah,
just like very insular.
yeah. And then but the funny thing is they'll also use words like we've heard in the past. Like they'll say like yoink or yeet, right?
Mm.
So yoink, my dad said yoink, and he would like grab your nose, yoink. He'd do that. Have your dad ever did that? Like, that yoink. The kids will say it today, and they don't even know. They'll say yoink, and they'll do the same thing, but they don't know where it came from. You know what I mean?
Mm. Mm.
So it's funny because when you work with kids, especially the teachers out there or whoever, you realize like some of the words that these kids say, and you kind of understand, and some of them you kind of have to look up, but I feel like their kind of language is heavily above, like it's in like the sixth dimension kind of language.
Right.
It's like more like alien talk. They've gone way past the norm.
Yeah.
What the sigma? I have a 6-year-old running around, and he's like, "What the sigma?" And like, how does that two even make sense? He says it in a way where it's like you're surprised. You're saying, "What the sigma?" But sigma also means you're like the bad boy, kind of.
Mm.
Like Sigma boy.
I guess that's just like a filler word for replacing the S word
But
for
if
them.
I feel like most of their words are filler words, though, they'll just throw it out there.
Yeah.
You know.
I just wouldn't know. I gotta be honest, I'm pretty out of touch when it comes to a lot of like um cultural stuff in general. I mean, I pick up stuff.
But that's just like a generation thing. That
Yeah.
that is.
But I'm just saying, like in general, I'm pretty out of the loop when it comes to culture in general. Like I pick up stuff from other people, but I've just always been that way. Where I've always kind of like, I hear something and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of understand what that might be used for. I'm gonna use that. that's kind of how I land on stuff. You know what I mean?
A lot of stuff, like I personally know because I had to look it up, and I know like where I work, we kind of, excuse me, have to band certain words. You know, they'll say like "gyat Rizzler" and stuff like that, and you're not supposed to say "gyat" because "gyat" means, you know, it's girl you, girl your ass thick. Yeah, yeah. So they'll scream "gyat" like all the time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, girl, you're ass thick. If you're on the internet a lot or whatever, YouTube, you'll know. Yeah, and people who are in their 30s,
Oh man,
you're
that's
welcome.
funny.
So if you, if your kids are saying any of these words, and you want to prevent that, now you know what they
So
mean.
the show, at least right now, is millennials, older millennials translating Zoomer talk
I don't know.
for other millennials.
I guess this is the tangent we're talking about. So initially, we're trying to figure out what this pod is going to be about, but I think it's about, I don't know. I feel like it should just be bouncing back and forth on thoughts in a creative space.
That's all. That's
You know
all.
what I mean?
That's all. That's all. I'm down for anything. So that's at least like the beginning part.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have a lot of tangents.
Yeah,
But
a whole
we
lot.
wanted to definitely talk about Lazarus because we just saw that.
We saw the first episode.
What did you think of it? Because
We gotta show off our shirts first. Cause see, look, Jujutsu Kaisen. We're both like weebs.
yeah,
we're
we're weebs.
anime fans. So obviously we had to watch, you know, the new
we it's the
Lazarus.
creator of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo.
and Carol on Tuesday.
Right. Which
forgot
he
his
told
name.
me about. It's probably right there.
Oh yeah, somewhere right there.
It probably says it over there.
There
Right
you
there.
go. Shinichiro Watanabe.
So it was, what were your thoughts? Because for me, going into it, I pretty much kind of knew it was going to take on a familiar tone to like a Cowboy Bebop.
Yes.
That was my expectation going in, and it more or less kind of had that feel to it.
Oh, it totally did. When I first saw the trailer, I wasn't sure about it. I was intrigued, and I was totally gonna watch it. But I wasn't sure how much Cowboy Bebop influence was there gonna be because he's written different
things.
stories in the same universe, but completely different stories. Like Carol on Tuesday is completely different from Space Dandy, and it's completely different from Cowboy Bebop, completely different from Samurai Champloo. So I wonder if it was gonna be another different kind of thing, or if it's gonna be very heavily tied with Cowboy Bebop. And I wasn't disappointed. I think this is the most Cowboy Bebop I've seen that's not Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, for sure.
I still don't know where the setting is, if it's in space, Mars, or something. I'm assuming it is, if it's in the same universe. I know there was a city called Babylonia City in there, and I know that's the general setting, but I just don't know if they ever said it in the first episode, if it was in
from what
Mars or whatever.
From what I could tell, or from what I could pick up, just what they were referencing within the episode, it seemed like it was on Earth because they were showing the map of the Earth or map of the planet they're on, which looked like Earth. I saw like a few continents, and they had like Africa and
did they?
Europe in there.
I missed that part then.
So that's at least how I'm rolling with it, at least for now. But could always find out later that I'm wrong. But it looked like it was on Earth, just in the future.
Okay. This was a MAPPA production, and maybe because I'm expecting too much now that they made Jujutsu Kaisen and Attack on Titan final season, that I wanted the action, or at least in the first episode's action, to be a little bit more clean, but it kind of felt a little rough to me. So now I'm concerned about the rest of the season when it comes to the action. I get they kind of want to give that same vibe as, I guess, how Cowboy Bebop was, but in the same sense, Cowboy Bebop was made like...
It's dated.
Yeah, it's like 98 when it came to the US, 99, something like that. And so, and it was really good action for its time. So this one, even though they had the awesome feeling of that action, I felt like it could have been cleaner when it came to frame rates, and I don't know. It felt a little choppy to me.
Um, well, I would kind of agree. It was a little, rough and choppy at certain points, but yeah, I didn't know that it was Mappa working on it, but I guess the compromise will always be like what you want the show to be more focused around. And obviously it takes a little bit more resources
Yeah.
to pour into it to make it look and feel more of like the other Mappa productions where you see some animation of like the characters and things like that, and you're like, wow, that just looks crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess the intent for them is not so much to pour a lot of resources into that, and just more so have things that seem more grounded in the same kind of works that this particular author has done before. You know what I mean? So the same sort of like actions and movements will be very similar to the Champloo's and the Cowboy Bebops.
Yeah.
That's kind of more
It
or less how I see it.
yeah, and the fluidity and the motion of how he was moving, like the parkour stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
loved. It's the frames between, I think.
No, I
You
understand
know.
what you're saying. I don't disagree that it was choppy at points, but I think that for what this particular story is trying to aim for,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of more or less what I would have expected,
Okay.
um, regardless of who the animation studio is. But that's just kind of how I view it. So it didn't take anything away from me. I don't know if it did for you personally.
It didn't, and only because it's the first episode, and personally for me, I usually give like a 3 or 4 episode shot before I decide to keep watching or drop it. So I obviously the story is already intriguing enough. So even if the action stayed the same, I'm still staying because the story is just interesting. Which the story, without trying to spoil it if you haven't seen it yet, but basically it's one guy who makes this drug that people start using, like a ton of people use, and it's convenient for everyone, but now it's in their system, not knowing it's actually harmful for them. So when they realize that this drug could kill them in like a certain amount of time point, now they got to find this guy. But there's this organization that recruits this kid, who's I guess the Spike of the show, Axel, and
He's like a young adult. He's like in his 20s or something.
23 or 24 or something like that.
Something like that.
But they recruit him, and they're basically gonna try to figure out where this guy is. You know.
Yeah.
But amidst all that, there's chaos going on within the environment. So that's one thing I loved about what I love about like Watanabe's work is that he puts so much detail not only in the characters that he develops, but in the world. And this is no different. Like you'll see chaos going on though. They say like the pharmacies are being burned down because people are, doing that, or the stock markets is crashing because of what's happening. So you get a sense of worldly change. And it's so interesting how it's happening in the same time where our economy is kind of being feeling kind of, let down a little bit. We're not. Well, we won't discuss politics too much on this. I don't really don't want to, but let's just say that it's convenient.
Volatile times.
It's the volatile times, and it's convenient how they kind of reflect with reality, and that's
Right.
that's what makes good storytelling.
Yeah.
A lot of good stories, movies that reflect on your own perception of your real life makes for good content. Because it's like I can relate to that.
Yeah, I think there's always timeliness with some of these concepts, especially when it comes to like the Cowboy Bebops and Samurai Champloo's. There's always something that is kind of pertinent to our time, relevant to our time.
Yeah.
But my thought of the episode was, generally really good. Like, outside of some of the choppiness that you did point out, I mean, overall, I think the story is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like the idea that you could have like a scientist who intended on making like a drug that wasn't supposed to be a painkiller, but ended up being kind of used like that.
Mm-hmm.
And most of this is kind of spoilery. It's not really, but it's not that important. But the fact that this particular scientist ends up revealing like it could end up killing most
Yeah.
of humanity.
Yeah.
Um,
Hence why they're all in a rush to find this guy.
yeah,
Because he says his name is Skinner, I believe, the scientist. He says that if you could find the drug starts taking effect in 30 days. People who first took the drug, which is Hapna, is the name of the drug, they start to their body starts to die down on the 30th, like within the 30 days.
yeah.
From what
But I think he said that there will be people along the way that it'll find a way to act a little bit sooner than that. But it's a 30-day window,
yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
die.
So he basically said, "You find me in 30 days, I'll develop a cure." I'm not sure if he has a cure or if he's going to develop a cure. But if it's like, if it starts people dying in 30 days, they find him before the 30th day and he doesn't have a cure, he has to actually make it. I'd be like, wow, we found you. Like, oh, you got me. But yeah, I didn't say I had the cure. I said I can make a cure.
I do have thoughts
That'd be messed up.
Yeah, I do have thoughts about that because I don't know if I want to talk about it right now, but it general thoughts about the first episode is it was really good. I would definitely recommend people give it a at least 3-episode try. There's only one right now. I think the second episode's supposed to air today.
Yeah, which is
later today.
Yeah, later today. Yeah, which is funny because I didn't see it up on Max, so
yeah. So there's that to look forward to. But the first episode alone and just how they set everything up, very interesting. And if you're a person that's familiar with Cowboy Bebop at all, it'll probably be more up your alley, just because it has that very Cowboy Bebop feel to it.
Yeah,
like almost 1-to-1. But we'll see. Maybe it gets bad along the time. Who knows?
The only way I could see it going bad is the story flops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it flops, or I don't know. What I am interested after watching the first episode, what I do want to see, which they probably won't put in there because obviously if it's going to be a multi-season thing, they're probably not going to put it in the first season. But
I don't think it'll be a multi-season thing.
Yeah, probably like a 20-some episode, right? Like Cowboy Bebop.
That's what I think.
Regardless, I do want to see more of Axel's backstory because his parkour is like spot on. So I want to know how he learned that. Like with Spike, they didn't really show it, but he briefly explains he studied kung fu or Bruce Lee's martial art. Jeet Kune Do, I think that's what it is. So I want to know where he learned all that crazy parkour and how he's just like, I know I bet you anything, he's just thinking on his feet, like on the spot, because he seems like a very Spike type of character, and Spike he goes as how he sees it. So I feel like that's how this character is, but you still got to be focused enough to learn how to jump and weave through that, because there are certain instances where I thought it looked like he was gonna fall.
Oh yeah, no.
But then he's like, "No, I've got the cojones to do this. Let's do it."
Yeah, he definitely came off as very experienced doing something like that because it was, he's like dropping from ungodly high heights and dropping all the way down to the rooftops of buildings and shit, and he's going off of scaffoldings. It's like,
and that's
crazy.
That's mostly the first episode is them trying to hunt him down and he's just parkouring through it. But it's like, because this is how an episode could be bad. If they just focused on his parkour the whole episode, it'd be boring and bad without any context.
Yeah.
But because they weaved in good storytelling and introduced the main characters within the first episode, because of his parkour, it made that story that much more.
Yeah, it's an interesting little element to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an addition to the escape
Yeah.
because he's escaping from a prison.
And there's so many good ways to introduce other characters in a multicast series like this. This was one of the more genius ways I thought they did it. You know, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I would definitely say um, give it a watch out there. Give it a try, and it may hook you. If it doesn't, then blame him. But I think
It's gonna hook you because if you don't like this, then you don't like good story. And I'm sorry, and out of the two of us, I'm the one with the complaint. I'm the one with the lag issue problem.
Yeah.
So, and I still like the story. That I don't know.
Yeah. So I would agree with you on pretty much everything. Definitely give it a try, guys.
Yeah.
So anything else you wanted to touch on?
Let's see. I guess what is it? 30-minute mark. We got a few more minutes. So I guess we could discuss like this podcast is we're gonna try to do a more monthly podcast with our schedules. I feel like that's a good pace for us at the moment. So that being said, yeah, it's gonna be a while till we be back on camera or on your whatever it's listening app you listen to, but it gives us the freedom to be able to create good content. And I feel like with that month space, we could come up with ideas of what to talk about within the end of the month. So I'm thinking like maybe either the end of the month that we'll put up the next following podcast and stuff. So that way, whatever happens within that month, we could talk about it at the end of the month.
Okay.
I think that would make sense, right?
And whatever anybody out there wants us to touch on, I'd be down for too.
Yeah.
If you guys have suggestions.
I guess we could go into more of like creative spaces. And so like what we plan or what I guess individually kind of how we work with our tools that we are given.
Well, I mean, as of right now, I've actually just been I'm writing different things. I have my tentacles in very different genres. I actually have been sort of scripting out like a short story.
Okay.
I've also been writing a little bit of poetry, but keeping that to myself.
You can't share that and then not share the
Well,
poetry.
my thing is, and this is something we can talk about in future episodes, but I feel like writing for me is therapeutic. I mostly do it for myself. It's just a way for me to be able to keep myself grounded, decompress. It's always been kind of like an escape for me. And I feel like when I write poetry specifically, I have like different ideas that I just want to kind of get out. And then I kind of tweak things over time. And, then I might show like a couple of people or whatever. I don't think I've ever shown you my poetry.
No, you have mentioned that you were writing poetry in the past, but I never kind of poked to being respectful in a sense. Like, if you didn't want to share, then
like
that's totally fine.
About it,
yeah.
But
now I feel like we gotta hear some poetry, man, or at least come up with some poetry that you could share.
That's true. I could probably do that. But yeah, I mean, writing for me is something that is personal. So I always have that issue of being able to share because it's very vulnerable. But it's definitely something that I'm working on in terms of like trying to actually share what I write in a public setting, and I've just got to kind of figure that part out. But for the most part, I just kind of keep what I write to myself, and it's just my way of being able to get my feelings out or make sense of my feelings or my everyday sort of day-to-day life. And I feel like for a lot of people, that's kind of what they get from writing is um, there is a lot of, I would say, selfishness by a lot of us writers, um, because it is about us at the end of the day. We do kind of put a little bit of ourselves in our writings, but I think a lot of us also do have that instinct to share our creativity and our process with people, because we want to be able to have other people sort of tell us like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's like the best feeling, is when somebody sees your writing and is like, that's really interesting, that was pretty good, you know. So, but what about you, man? What are you working on?
I'm working on a lot of different things too. I'm also an octopus with hands and everything. One, this podcast that both of us are working on and trying to do stuff with it. Honestly, the last month or two, I've just been hooked on like gaming, but that's not anything like creative. Before the gaming happened, I was doing a lot of work on my iPad. It's just a lot of drawing, illustrating, uploading on Instagram, sharing it on TikTok. And for me, it's in a similar way. It's ideas that I see our vision and I want to get it out there, you know. And I guess because we're talking about like the whole creative aspect, creative space, it's kind of with us being millennials in our 30s and everything, it's a good way to kind of see if any of like our listeners also, if they share the same values or they have something that they do on the side that are, you know, that shows a little creativity, or like how do you kind of get your mind inspiration, or how do you even get your mind in order, you know, because a lot of us, our minds are just scattered. We're thinking about 2 million things of different things, especially now we're adults and we have to deal with so many different crises around our house, around our work, around everywhere, you know, and, you know, everything's not the same of how it was 20 something years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever. And so it's like a space for just us to be who we intended we want to be, or, you know, in a sense, you know, you want to be a writer, but is anyone going to even know that you're a writer? In a sense, it's for you to know, like, it shouldn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, like I do it because I feel like it just gets my mind at ease in a sense, or it's an order, or I could do something. It's something I can kind of control. I also dabble in like writing also. It's not very good writing, but I try to write now and then. But I think lately I've just been more in the drawing phase, illustrating part. But right now I've just been coming home from work, brain shut off, and just putting on either Phasmophobia, which I started uploading videos on my YouTube channel on Phasmophobia. I uploaded one video.
Oh, you did? Really?
Yeah. It's pretty fun. I'm playing with my cousin and his wife, and we have a blast playing Phasmophobia. And then sometimes I'll dabble in Marvel Rivals. I'm terrible at the game, so don't ask me if I'm like Diamond or.
The only thing that I've seen in regards to Marvel Rivals lately, I'm not going to be crude because we have to keep this
better watch what you say, boy.
PG as possible.
Watch what you say, boy.
But I did see I think it's Emma Frost.
I have yet to try that character. She came out yesterday.
I've seen so much art
already
of her,
bro.
I'm just saying,
gooner.
What did you said gyat earlier? Now that's a gyat.
You know that he's a millennial because how he used the word.
that right there.
Oh man.
I mean, there's other terms I can't use on here, but that.
If there's anything we have to edit out, we're editing. You are saying yeah.
You can edit that out. You can keep that in there. They can laugh at me. That's fine. But I'm just saying, the art that I seen of that, that's immaculate. Like
Yeah, no,
the people out
she's
you that are doing that, respect. I
it,
follow a lot of artists on Twitter. So.
okay. So here's my point when it comes to the art, because it's a wonderful art channel, right? Kind of.
There's a lot of wonderful art of Miss Emma Frost. That's what I'll say.
Marvel Rivals, in terms of its art, what I it suffers from the fact that a lot of people who think that that game has a lot of, how do I say it, simp or gooner energy,
Mm-hmm.
which, to be fair, yes, okay, but hear me out. Hear me out, okay? Okay. First of all, one, long time ago, when comic books still existed, all right, it catered to boys, to young boys grabbing a comic book, reading it, and seeing their characters, their heroes come to life. It had characters already designed that way. A lot of the characters that you see that have been designed that way, like um, Sue Storm's Malice skin, for example,
Mm-hmm.
it's in the comics. That's not anything they made up for the game. It's all lore based. Yeah, they have their own style and tweak to it, and they made it more, obviously, a little bit different from how it is in comic. But relatively, like, if you compare the two, if anything, they gave her a massive, like, a more updated look of it. So that's so. I guess what I'm trying to say is this is a comic book video game, and it's catered to people in that demographic. It's catered to the people who like hero shooters in that demographic. So you're gonna get like a lot of people with that type of game style. So all these people, especially the girls who play the game, who say, "Oh, it's very misogynistic." They're showing the well, no one's like talking about Namor, the fish guy in there. He's in trunks and his whole body is exposed. Venom,
I think
he's literally a big old naked dude in there. And then he's twerking. They gave him an animation where he's twerking.
yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
So where's the complaint on that? Or even Black Panther. He's got a skin where he's wearing like a bear or something. I don't play the skin, and he's bare chested out there. And then you get all these women.
I think there are plenty of women from what I've seen from that community that are pretty into sexy.
They are, and that's the thing. Like it's not saying all the women, but I'm saying there's some women and even
big
men,
buff dudes and sexy women. I think women will generally be okay with.
But there are like I want to say women is the wrong term. It's bad. It's like more like the feminist mindset. Like it's like when they start to come out into this type of category, is like, oh, you're complaining about one, like, because they're sexualizing women. They've always been sexy in the comics. I don't know what to tell you. Go read an X-Men comic.
Yeah.
Half of they're all showing their bellies.
I think that people that are like that are always going to be like that with anything. I don't think that they're.
But
that
it's like the
important.
double standard. It's like, oh, but they're not sexualizing men. Bro, half the men you see in the MCU, they take their shirts off. That one scene in Captain America, he got out of the chamber. What did Peggy, what's her name, do?
I think
He goes on, tries to touch his chest. It's a double standard. It's okay if men are half exposed. That's totally fine. And it's okay to reach out and grab them. But when you try to talk about how, look at Squirrel Girl. There's nothing sexualized about Squirrel Girl in the game.
Is that the character?
Yeah, she's one of the more clothed up one. Or even Black Widow in the game. She's all clothed up in the game. Or even let's see, Magic. Her arm, she has a whole armor on, and she's like one of my mains. So it's like you're only kind of picking on these. Obviously, they make the skins to sell. They sell.
I mean, they have to.
Yeah.
Sex sells.
Sex sells. That's exactly it. And we're in a video game / comic book industry that cater to
generally,
that.
I just think that if you're the kind of person that stuff bothers you, a lot of people just don't ride with that. Like I think most normal people who just want to see really good art or their favorite character or hero be paid homage,
Yeah.
like with a reference that is in the comic book that they probably don't see a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think people like that generally. So
Yeah.
I don't think that
Psylocke is a good example. Her main costume in X-Men is basically a one-piece purple suit. That's how she always was. No one really cared or knew about it. But then as soon as you drop a new skin for Psylocke and it's her original suit, it's like, she's wearing one piece. Oh, she's showing too much ass. I'm like, I mean, no, that's just how she is in the comic books.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Go pick up a comic book, you know?
Generally, with a lot of these characters, they've always kind of, I mean, they're in skin tight suits in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
The men and the women.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that bring that up are not genuinely upset. It's just more of like a lashing out. Like some people want to be holier than thou just to appear holier than thou. And I don't really those are the kind of people that I just generally ignore. I think, there's different ways of being able to appreciate art. Some people like sexy characters, some people like more realistic, forms.
As a full grown 30-some-year-old man, I like to play sexy women in video games. So,
and that is perfectly okay.
Thank you
There's
for
nothing
accepting
wrong
me.
with that.
Thank you.
You're in a safe space, buddy.
That's what we should call this podcast. The
safe space. I like that.
The safe space.
Safe space. I like that.
It makes room for stuff.
You got anything for the people, man?
Aside from that, I don't want to end on that rant. We got to end on something positive.
Okay. Well, I do have one thing that I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
This is one of my personal favorite things that I've seen this year so far was Devil May Cry, the
on Netflix,
the Netflix series. It was really good. Highly recommend. I think what's his name? You know who?
Channing Bosch.
Yes, you knew exactly what I was talking about.
I did see a few episodes of it.
He is really good in it. I think the animation is really cool. The story and the way that it's told and the characters, really good. Highly recommend people at least give that a try as well. Because, at first I was a little skeptical.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with Devil May Cry personally.
I played the games back on PlayStation. I can't say I beat all of them, honestly. But I know like the basic lore of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I know Johnny Bosch. First of all, one, my favorite Power Ranger. He's awesome. And two, he played Nero's voice in Devil May Cry 4. Yeah, so the Nero character, that was Johnny Bosch, the lookalike Dante. So, and the fact that he's back in this Devil May Cry show, like, wow, that's amazing.
So for me and what because we completed, me and my brother, we watched the entire series in a couple of days, and I can definitely recommend, like, me and him, we generally have like a similar sort of taste when it comes to shows. And that was one that was very enjoyable for us to kind of pick up. It's 8 episodes. It's not very long.
I'm 2 episodes out. I'm on I just finished episode 6. Yeah. I got 2 more episodes.
So you don't have very much long. But yeah, I mean, as you've probably seen as well, like, it's just a very, I think, well done show. And like I said, I would probably give it overall like an 8 out of 10 score. It's just fun. It's not super.
They didn't take it too serious.
Yeah.
If anything, it's a different rendition of the actual story.
For sure. That's what I've been told as well. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with how it's supposed to go.
Yeah. When it comes to like the origins of it, they definitely went their own route.
Yeah. That's what he said as well.
That said, I give it a little lower score,
Okay.
but I would say like a 7.5.
Okay.
Only because I felt the story was a little too quick, and I needed it to slow down in certain spots. Stuff explained in a sense. Well, I feel like the story is maybe oversimplified. Maybe that's what it is. It's a very simple story to follow. It's not
Yep. It's
anything.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's nothing new or
Nothing.
groundbreaking that you haven't seen before in this type of story.
I will say this, because you said you were
As you can tell, I'm very
episodes.
big on story.
You were 6. Well, my thing is I'm more of a character guy.
Character development kind of thing.
So characters sell anything to me. Any media,
Okay.
any art form, anything.
Okay.
Characters are way more important to me than the actual story.
Okay.
If you have a story that's good, but the characters are not something I can get behind, then I don't care.
Okay.
That's
okay.
me.
Okay.
But for some people, I'm probably hitting the mic a couple of times. Sorry about that, guys. But for me, like, if a character is compelling, if the character can make me care about them, if I'm generally interested in their how they are navigating in the setting that they've been set up in, that's what sells things to me. When the story can be good, but if the characters are not something that I believe in or care about, then I'm just like, yeah, sure, whatever. But
Yeah. To be fair, I believe you have to have a good balance of both.
You do.
But I think where the characters do excel, I love a lot of the new characters they put on there. Well, I like 3 of the characters. Well, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I'll just quickly say, like, I've read a load of things over my lifetime. I've read a lot of books or a lot of art, media, whatever, and fanfics. The thing about me is I think you can get away with a story that's not so good if the characters are something you can kind of follow. But if the characters aren't good and the story is like, anywhere from okay to good, to me, it just makes me like, I don't care. And I just drop it. That's generally
no, I think that's a fair that's fair. I could kind of say the same. I'm thinking of movies now where the story was really good, but the characters just are butt, and I didn't like it. But yeah, so yeah, that's fair. I'd say like I think the characters would kind of have to pull the weight in order for me to finish the movie. I think, if the story's bad, but what I mean by the pacing for me, or like it was kind of oversimplified, was Dante's character was good. The girl's character, what's her name? I forgot her name.
He was calling her lady, but I'm forgetting her name.
Lady.
Oh man.
Well, she was good, but
I'll probably look it up.
But they introduced her character in a pretty cool way, where they seem like the group that could pretty much wipe out any other group, right?
Her name is Marianne Arkham.
Yeah, Arkham. That's right. I remember because it was like Batman. But her crew wasn't anything to remember. Even in the times where it felt all is lost, and then like half her people just straight up died, even though they had the small little emotional moments of like, what did you do for the show? That was going in my head, honestly. Maybe it's because I binged it, but like I was like, okay, but you never even showed me your skills. You just stood there looking like a badass, but that was about it. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff that happened, that all the things that they did was because of the Arkham lady.
Fair.
You know, it was her, like she did most of the heavy lifting for the group. But I wanted to see these characters look cool. They had their own weapons and everything, but they never utilized them.
They were mobs. I don't
Yeah,
think they ever
yeah,
mattered. They
but
were
that's the problem,
mobs.
because when they introduced them, right, the whole room was filled with mobs, bounty hunters and stuff.
That's generally
Yeah.
how it
Yeah,
works.
and then they were the group that, yeah, we're better than you, and then it ended up, no, you're not really better than them. You just died the same way as they did. The one bounty hunter, the big bounty hunter that kind of met Dante's like, hey, remember me? I just kind of want. He seemed like he had a better character than half the crew that she had.
I
At
didn't.
least he's still alive, I think.
They were pretty much mobs from the beginning. So for me, it didn't do anything when
But
they were.
that's what I mean. It's like you're setting up these characters for me to like follow and have some sort of meaning. And I feel like because the series had a certain end point, there's no development in that.
I don't think those characters mattered personally.
But that's the thing. To me, they did, because to me, it hyped up this lady, this Arkham person, you know. But I don't know. It's how, because I wanted to know how strong she really is. Like how strong is your crew? Honestly, the moment I saw that she was the first one to jump in there and get Dante, I was like, oh no. My I'm sorry. My initial reaction was like, oh no, because then I was thinking, if the head honcho of this group is the first to go in, what does that say about her crew? Because I feel like she needs to be the last to go in. Like, let her crew deal with it, and whatever they can't deal with, you jump in. So that's what I was. That's what I was thinking when I was like, when Dante was getting fumbled left and right with the bounty hunters while
Right.
Rage Against the Machine is playing in the background, and then it's like, cool, awesome, I like it so far. And then it's like, yeah, now the this crew's coming in, and they're gonna show them. He's gonna show them. But then it's like, wait a minute, you're telling me that you're putting your best fighter in there first to get like
That's generally how I think it would go for like an actual team,
but then it kind of just, for me, I felt like
clandestine type team.
yeah, I feel like it's like wasted story space. You know, that's what I mean by the story part. It's like, whereas we were just talking about Lazarus, right? In You can't say that about this crew that Herschel, I forgot her, the girl, the lady who's bringing the crew together. You can't say that about them, because she's technically the bad one, the one who has all the power. Like, I gathered you guys together. I'm like the Amanda Waller of this group, you know. But you don't know what she could really do. All you saw was she got her hands up and Axel, escaped. But you
Right.
know she has power because the people that she's working with all respond to her, and you can see how important each character is. You know what I mean?
I think it's a different. I think
It-
it's two different things, because with those characters in Lazarus, you
They're-
already know they're supposed to be a team. Whereas like
Exactly.
the guys in Devil May Cry, yeah, sure, they're part of her team, but they're not the main characters. They were just
They're-
mobs who are going to always sort of like look silly in compared to like full on demons that are
Yeah.
stronger than.
I get that, but you can't say that it's not in a similar setting. They're trying to get Dante. They're trying to get Axel. They have a crew to get them. She's got a crew to get. They're very. You could relate them in that sense. And I get the story is two different things. Where one is a co-op crew. Let's go get this thing, and this one is very much a me story. Like, it's Dante's story, but like if they were gonna do like a Castlevania where they have multiple seasons, I would, and they're doing this Devil May Cry now season in their own way. I feel that they lost potential in creating good characters. They had really cool designs. I'm not gonna lie, they had really cool looking designs. I remember like the big dude had the two tonfas in the back. One of the chicks had like some sort of rifle sort looking thing, and then what was it? One dude had katana, the other dude could like
Well,
I think he was
I'll
justified.
say it like
Like
this. I
they had unique looking like silhouettes. When you look at a character, you could understand a character through its silhouettes.
right.
They had unique looking silhouettes for a crew, but they killed them off in one episode. They kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was just to kind of show the difference of like a regular human versus like demons who actually have powers.
But they're like they're the demon squad, demon force, whatever they're called. Their expertise is in killing these demons. But one little line separated it. One little line. It was, oh, these demons are a level above the regular demons we hunt.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they said in the. I'm not sure even it's an anime, I guess, but they said that in the show, like we're not dealing with normal demons. We're like this is not. That's basically what they said in one of the episodes. I think in the same episode where they all died.
Right.
I'm like, you're telling me you go around killing demons, and the first time we see you in action, you get killed by a demon.
Well,
That's just my mindset.
I think those particular ones were just a little bit stronger than what they were used to, because they were used to eliminating basic. I mean, and they show it in the series eventually, but they're mostly getting rid of like the equivalent of regular civilians, but they're just demons.
Well, I mean,
Like they don't have like special abilities or powers or anything. They're just like literal civilians that came from the demon world that got transported to the human world, and they're more or less like capturing or killing those demons, and they don't really have any sort of like real abilities to them. And then they run into demons that actually do, and they get smacked. And that's kind of what you would expect, because all they really have are like these specialty
So you're telling me that
bullets or
they've
whatever.
been bullying immigrants, basically.
That's basically what it is.
But
yeah,
but now I wish they had explained that.
no, they do. They literally
they
do.
didn't explain that.
Well, you're not quite done with the series, but they do, because in I believe it's episode 6. I want to say.
Well, I mean, they showed the demons from another realm in that episode.
Yeah,
So,
like
but,
the main villain.
yes,
Villain.
but I mean,
that's
like,
kind of spoilers, but
I
yeah.
mean, they should have explained it, like, or at least showed it that these are the types of demons we deal with. Like, they'll arrest a demon that looks like something they would.
Well, yeah,
because when the first demon you see is the bunny dude, and he's a pretty strong demon. So I expect these task force guys to deal with someone in
they
that
definitely
level.
deal with demons that have powers. I shouldn't make it seem like they don't, but I am saying that most of the ones that they've been dealing with are just not that strong. And when they run into really super strong ones, they get mocked, because that's what you expect.
I mean, I kind of see where they were going at. They basically use them as a suicide squad to go against the bunny's demon army, because at the end of the day, the episode ended where his demon army is pretty much done, and then her task force is done. So now they're at 0 level. Now it's just Dante and Mary Arkham. Her squad is gone, and the bunny squad is pretty much gone. Right.
So,
at the end of the day, they both clash, and both their teams are dead. So I feel like I feel like that's how they.
There's a little bit more that goes on past where you are, but yeah, I mean, generally, I would say that's kind of more or less the plot. It's very quick and easy to get the gist of.
Yeah.
I don't personally see that as an issue, because I feel like it makes the show very accessible for people who know nothing about the series.
Yeah. Well, for me,
like myself,
it's a good. It's a show with very good character development if you want to watch like Dante develop and who he is. But I feel like it is lacking in that. That being said, like I said, I gave it a 7.5. The other good things about it, I feel like, is the action is really good, especially for the studio that it is. You know, I don't expect like, you know, My Hero Academia or Demon Slayer type level of animation or anything like that. The other good part is they have a good cast. You know, they have Johnny Bosch, they have Kevin Conroy, who was, I don't know Kevin Conroy, but he's basically Batman. You know, he does the animated Batman, so he's the vice president. You know, so there's a lot of familiar voices in the show. and it very caters to the nostalgia of like the millennials, where they'll play Limp Bizkit in the beginning, then they'll play Rage Against the Machines in the next episode, and then they'll play like music, like rock music from back in the early 2000s and 90s.
Apparently, that's kind of, uh, from what I've gathered from the Devil May Cry series,
it always had a rock
very
thing.
much has like a lot of rock metal
Yeah,
type
yeah. But the fact that they used
stuff in there.
the fact that they used those kind of like the
Yeah,
music I listened to, I was like,
it's pretty much in
yeah,
line with
yeah.
that kind of vibe. Yeah.
And then a lot of Capcom marketing I think was in there too. Like they'll
Oh
throw
yeah.
out they'll throw
There's a
out
lot
like
of self-referential things
yeah
with the Capcom universe. Yeah.
they mentioned Raccoon City, so they might do a Resident Evil thing. They had like a Mega Man bobblehead in there, and Street Fighter the game was referenced in there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they had a lot of reference of Capcom in there.
Which is expected. That's kind of why, a lot of these companies try to have these kind of shows, is they're kind of glorified advertisements.
Mhm.
I think I read either yesterday or today that they've actually seen an uptick in people who are playing like some of the more recent Devil May Cry
Mhm.
games, like Devil May Cry 5
Yeah.
and things like that. They've seen an uptick in terms of like people buying those games and playing them. So it seems like when these kind of series come out, people are like, "Oh, okay, I kind of am interested now. I kind of want to know more," and they just get the games.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how a lot of this stuff works nowadays.
Self marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And overall, I'm finishing. I only got 2 episodes left, and I want to see what happens. So I'm definitely invested in his character development and stuff. As for like the general story itself, I kind of just like, it is what it is. It's a very simple story. It's nothing hard to follow. Did I expect too much from it? No. Honestly, like when I saw that Netflix was making a series, I figured it's Netflix, and they're gonna make
Yeah.
an 8 episode series, and it pretty much played out on how what Netflix budgets would kind of allow them to do. That's how I kind of see it too. Like I got to think about the studio that's actually producing it. So I feel that it's kind of, if you're expecting a lot more than what you think you saw in the trailers or whatever, then stop. Stop expecting too much. Just go in with just, turn on, watch the first few episodes. If you like it, then you like it. If you don't like it, then, or if you didn't like the first couple episodes, that's how it's going to go throughout the rest for you. It's a very simple story.
I will say that I believe it's episode 6. I know me and my brother, who I watched it with, we were like, wow, this is really like well done episode, because it's not a whole ton of voice acting. It's actually you just kind of seeing, you kind of peer through a little bit of the past with some of the characters.
Oh, that's right.
I'm not going to spoil
Episode
anything.
6 is where, I'm not going to say it, but that's where that whole, okay.
You see the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
you see the background in some of the characters and their motivations, and I think that it's very well done in a very unique way.
Yeah.
And I think that episode alone is, I think, worth giving it a watch. It's a little, obviously it's like it's towards the end of the series of this first season, so you'd have to wait quite a while, but I think that particular episode is really well done, just artistically from my standpoint.
Okay.
How they storyboarded it and everything. It's very well done.
It's definitely one of those episodes that you have to appreciate animation for.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And the storytelling part. I think anything that had the most storytelling.
Yep. For
in
sure.
that episode.
Yep. Very well done.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really good episode. Which is, I kind of wanted that. Like I don't know. I'm not. I don't hate it, but it's not obviously. You could tell between both of us that I'm more of a critic when it comes to these things. I don't know what it is. I think it's just my lizard brain going off or whatever. But it I I think it's because I have dabbled with like filming in the past and writing scripts and all that
You're
stuff.
a little
So
bit
more
critical.
analytical about it, like this. I feel like this has to be like that. So sometimes being a critic sucks because it's like you get the backlash or you expect certain things and it's like, they could have done this, they could have done that. Like you start to see the little nits and grits of things where they could have improved on, but then it's like at the end of the day, it's an experience, and
That's how I generally approach a lot of like media in general. It's like
yeah,
it's more of an experience, and did it give me an experience that's worth talking about?
yes,
And if
it's
it
a
did,
yeah,
then I will bring it up here. And if it didn't, I might bring it up here, and I'll just be like, yeah, don't give it a shot. Move on.
yeah, that's
But
fair,
that's
totally
kind of
fair.
how I look at it.
Yeah. So at least you get two sides of different, aspects of the
Yeah,
coin,
everybody has a different
opinion.
discerning eye and how they look at art and media, and I
Yeah,
think that's what sparks interesting discussion,
yeah.
which is kind of like the whole impetus of why we
Want
are
to do
doing
this?
this.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, and I guess that's why we're not too concerned about a certain topic for this channel. Obviously, there are ground rules that we want to keep, but it's uh, it's because we could play back and forth from each other and be cool. It makes for a good. I personally think when we start speaking, it makes for a good conversation where
Yeah,
I feel like we could share it with other people with like mindedness or, you know,
I would hope so.
yeah, yeah.
I hope so.
Yes.
So
Um,
that's probably it, huh?
yeah, I guess that will wrap up this first episode, and hopefully you start hearing more from us, and we keep this momentum going. So, any final words?
Um, I will say congratulations to, I think it's the 5th-year anniversary of Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out.
Oh, is it already the
It
fifth
just,
year
yeah,
of
it's
the
the fifth
remake?
year anniversary that the remake came out.
No. Are
So
you
it's
serious?
2025. It came out in 2020. The remake series started in 2020.
Wow.
So
I swear
basically
it was like,
half a decade.
yeah.
Half a decade. And we've got one more game to go in a 3-part series. I'm a big fan. We're going to talk about it eventually on the channel, but I just want to say shout out to Final Fantasy VII Remake series. Square Enix, hopefully one day you will be our sponsor. That's a dream.
Yes.
Maybe we can hit up Square Enix headquarters one day.
Oh yeah, sure. Let's wait till we get to our 130th episode.
But yeah, I'm a big time fan of the series. I'm a more of a recent person because I didn't play the OG.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I wasn't fortunate enough, so
I
this
played
is all new for me.
Yeah, I never had a PlayStation growing up, but when I moved and I started high school, my next door neighbor was throwing out a lot of his stuff, and he was asking me I wanted his PlayStation. So I was in like high school when I played it. So he gave me one of them was Final Fantasy VII. It was like a 4-part disc thing, and I was like, holy guacamole, this is a big game. So, but I've never played the remake. I don't know. So I tried to get into it. I think you had downloaded, I think the one of the Rebirth, and I was trying to get the mechanics down, and I don't know.
It was the demo.
Yeah, I don't want to say it turned me off, but at the time I was just like, I'll probably give it another shot and try it and see. Maybe I'll have different opinions on it since I'm in a gaming mode right now. So.
Right. So for me, I've just been transformed by it.
No, you haven't. It was 5 years ago.
I'm going to. Oh, trust me, I have. But we'll talk about it another time. I just want to give a quick shout out. So
quick shout out for sure.
Anything you want to shout out?
I think that's pretty much it. All right. Thank you for listening to our podcast, our first official podcast. And hopefully, and no, not hopefully, we will see you in the next pod.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Bye.